You got your water?
I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, so welcome everyone to Love, Awaken and Prosper. Today's guest is Joshua Olatunde, actor, entrepreneur, artist, solo artist, one solo artist, right? And writer. And what else? Am I missing anything, Joshua?
I don't think so. I think that's enough.
That's enough? Okay, awesome. Welcome to my show, and thank you for being here. I'm so happy that you said yes to this interview. We wanted to talk, I actually asked you to come here because I wanted to talk about the evolution of a solo artist. And I know that you had an amazing show that I have not seen, but I have heard about it. And I wanted to talk about that and your experience doing that show. You created a show, Sidney Poitier.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what did you focus on, and what was your inspiration to write about him and create a show about him?
I'll give you the shortest version of a long story. When I was in high school, I was an athlete. And I had gotten all these scholarships for school. And right before the end of my senior year, my English teacher told me that she thought that I would be best suited going into theater, which it wasn't a part of my plans. She told me that one of the things that she thought is that I could potentially leverage the arts to teach, because it's really all that I really wanted to do. So I knew even when I was a high school student that I wanted to go and work with younger people one day.
Okay.
And that was partially because so many of my earliest mentors and people who really guided me, to be quite frank, they were Black males in my community. And I thought that I wanted to be the same. And so in her telling me that I should go into theater, she mentioned the name Sidney Poitier. And I had never heard of him. But she mentioned that she thought that in the space of being a leader amongst my peers, he would be a good person to model. So I went to go ask my mom who this guy was. My mom told me about how when she was a teenager, he was the hot guy and everyone loved him and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started watching his movies, The Patch of Blue and Raisin in the Sun, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Go Man Go, everything that he's ever done. And my dad bought me a book one day about Black entrepreneurs. And I found his production company in this book. And so I wrote this man one letter a week for 9 months. And I told him, yeah.
Really? How old are you?
17.
Wow. Okay, go ahead.
And so I told him that he had inspired me to, from an aesthetic standpoint, present myself as best as I possibly can, because I knew I wanted to go into working in education, and I knew that I had to be a role model, whatever that may not have meant.
To present the award for the best actor, a very brilliant Academy Award-winning actress of last year, Miss Anne Bancroft.
Sidney Poitier in Lilies of the Field. The winner is Sidney Poitier in Lilies.
And so I told him that one day I was going to teach every person my age about who he was, and I was going to go to New York City, and I was going to make a play, and we were going to be on Broadway. Of course, things didn't happen as linear as I wanted them to. But what I did do is I got into New York City, and I had done a lot of small plays throughout Harlem and that sort of thing. And finally, I figured, as opposed to me letting other people's plays be my voice as an artist, I would pick up a pen and I would become my own artist and teach what was important to me. And so I started reading his books. His first book was called This Life. The second that I read was called The Measure of a Man. And I read both those books, requested permission from HarperCollins, workshopped the play at Hunter College amongst my peers, and ultimately workshopped it in Times Square to the point that we were in an off-Broadway theater house, which is the Lambs Theater. I believe it's 44th and 6th Avenue. And so it was a great experience, a teaching experience for myself, and hopefully for those who were able to participate in this 90-minute one-person show. That really sort of the impetus of it really is, Serge, it's just the idea that his story compelled me, because it's the idea that there are no real boundaries. Your boundaries are literally what you set for yourself. And that was a very important message to me. And I learned that through, to be quite frank, through reading and learning about him.
I was not looking to be an actor. I was not looking for opportunities. I had absolutely no interest at all in being an actor. I was a dishwasher. I was, at that point, content to be a dishwasher because I felt and understood and embraced the fact that I did not have the wherewithal to do much else. That I wanted to do more. Not only did I want to do more, I was preparing myself to do more. One of the preparations I decided was essential to my survival was I had to learn to read. I really had to learn to read. I could read 3rd grade level, 4th grade level. As I told you, I left school at the age of 12 and a half.
Wow. Wow. I never heard that part of the story. And yes, how amazing is he? Yes, he is an inspiration as far as being where he came from. I actually heard the story from, I read, oh my goodness, what's his name? They like, me no wanna go home. What's his name?
Yeah,
Their friend.
Harry Belafonte?
Harry Belafonte. I read his bio.
Yeah.
And I found out how he, oh my goodness, it's a great story. I don't know, have you heard how Sidney Poitier got found because Harry Belafonte could not do his show, and Sidney Poitier was the stand-in, and he took it. And that night, it was the producers from Hollywood that came in and got him to do movies in Hollywood, and from
Lysa
there,
Strada.
Also,
that was the first play, which he walked out and didn't really know exactly what to do, sort of as an understudy. But yeah, of course, absolutely. And Harry Belafonte, same thing. These are the folks who, at the time for which they paved the way as artists, it was about so much more than art, right? This is taking ownership of an identity. And I felt that whether it was Harry Belafonte or Mr. Poitier or Ozzie and Ruby, or the list goes on and on, right? It was important, and I think it still is important, to keep the identity of who we are in a place that we don't forget, because many of us have, there's not so much of a pride in struggle, there's also a pride in success. And I think that they really captured that. And so, yeah.
Especially in those times. And I love the power of the mind as a man thinketh, which is one of my favorite books. But to know that, like, whatever they had a focus and they achieved it, and that is for everyone. And that's what we do here at Love, Awaken and Prosper, is to talk about just living your dreams and awaken to the reality that you create your own reality, right? So I love that you said that about him, and I love that just learning more about Mr. Poitier, because you know what, I never even heard about those books, and now I know he has autobiographies out there. I just never was interested to read them, but now I am. Now I will, actually. So awesome. And then you and I have something in common, because you said you work with kids, and I have worked with kids as well. Touring my own one-woman show in schools. And so from there, after you did the show, so you ran the show a little bit on off-Broadway, you produced it. Did you ever perform it in schools?
Only Hunter College.
Oh, in Hunter College. Okay.
Only Hunter College. After that, we hit the streets of New York, and we opened up as a public.
Okay. Alrighty. And then I heard you said that you wanted to always, your job was always to work with kids. So tell me, as far as being an artist and working with children, is that what you do with children? Because I really don't really know what you do with children in schools. Is it about the arts? Do you combine them?
Yeah. So, in the late 90s, I was a program coordinator and a tutor. I was a student at Hunter College at the time. And I was a part of an after-school program called Pathways for Youth. We were a beacon program in the South Bronx. And part of that program was we were the quintessential after-school program where kids after school, while their parents are at work, they come to this program, and there has to be an element of education and activities that are part of this 3-hour experience after school. So I came in as a program coordinator and a tutor. And the one thing that struck me right away with my kids in the South Bronx, I taught second graders. They didn't much have a love for math and science, and to be quite frank, for most of their subjects outside of PE, which of course is gym. And so it was at that time when I had this idea. I said, if I go home and I begin taking the lessons that the kids are learning, but being a little bit more forward thinking, so going to their teachers, right? After I come from school, going to their schools and asking the teachers, what are they working on for the day? For the week, and then creating creative lessons around that. So I started writing sort of skits for my students to do in the late 90s, which was sort of the beginning stages of me understanding how arts influence learning. And so every time that a kid would have a lesson, and it could be on synonyms and antonyms or the basics of math, it didn't matter what it was. I would write a little play centered around it, usually with just 2 students. The kids always remembered these lessons, and we would be able to cover 5 per day. And so you're talking 25 in a week, right? Because we ran one Monday through Friday. And so I learned that from these little, 2 minute, and 2 minutes was like a long time for these 7-year-olds, right? But these little 2-minute skits really worked. And I said, I'm gonna learn more about this. So of course I went to go work for Arts Echo, the New Jersey, it's a New Jersey children's theater company. I worked for the Chamber Theater Company out in Boston, which is where I went to graduate school. And I started touring the country as a performing artist for kids, children's theater. They call it TYA, Theater for Young Audience. And I was teaching everything, but it wasn't through my programming. I hadn't yet written anything for kids outside of my after-school lessons. And so I moved down to Atlanta in 2007, and I started my own company, my first nonprofit. We were Help for Youth, and we did Clayton County, Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb. We traveled out of state all the time up to Virginia and Alabama, and we then taught. I had different shows that I wrote. It was usually a 2-person show, and we traveled the country, and we would go into cabins and gyms, and we went all over the place. And the idea was the same as it was when the Sidney Poitier idea hit me, which is how do I now influence day-to-day learning through theater? And so we go into cafeterias and libraries and classrooms and the gyms, and we put on these shows, and I had my, everything, my Fender.
You had costumes and things like that? What did you have?
Well, the costumes were minimal. I was never one to dress up like, Big Bird or anything like that, but it would be little things, and it would be, if I wanted to play a doctor, maybe I'll put on a doctor's coat and a stethoscope or something like that. But it was the in particular the inner city urban schools. It was the message of theater is new, right? So it's not this foreign sort of art form. So theater was new to them, but it was making it very cool to them while teaching them. And I don't even know if they knew they were learning. And so we visited probably in my time, probably about close to 900 schools across the country.
Wow.
And we were everywhere. Yeah, we visited many states and many schools.
That is awesome. I never knew that about you either. I knew you traveled and did a lot of work in schools, but not like that. That's a lot of traveling. And it's true. You were always, I know we met in California, and you were always out, like, traveling from somewhere else. and that's what you were doing.
We were 300 days, 300 days a year, 300 days a year. We were gone.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? So I wanted to just get a little personal because I have a few students who are working on creating their shows, and they're wanting to travel, and well, they're writing them now, and their idea is, of course, to create a living, doing their one-person show. And some people have families, and I think it's very interesting as far as you saying 300 days, and how has this been for you as far as in your personal life? I mean, I don't know. I haven't spoken to you in a long time, and so I don't even know. I'm getting in your business. I don't know if you're in a relationship, but just coming from me, I knew being a single mom. When I had my daughter, I had to carry her and take her to my shows, and she'll be backstage, and I was breastfeeding while performing, and I had a family member, my sister, taking care of her while I performed. So I'm glad that I have my family. But how is that in your personal life? How has that affected like doing this touring and being an entrepreneur?
Well, you know, that is one area of my life that I have put on hold because I knew that if I didn't find the perfect partner who really understood that it may not work in the long term, and so at the time when I was in Atlanta, I was doing that actually with the person that I was with, and she and I traveled everywhere together.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so because she was a part of the show, yeah, she was. It was our show, and so we hit the road together, right? But then as time passed and it was just me, it was just me, and you learn to adjust. But for me, it's also learning what impact do I want to make, and for how long do I want to do this, right? So it really was a conscious decision of what type of life do I want for myself, and then try to structure what my goals are around that life. For me, especially as a younger person, that was my life. It was number one. So nothing else, everything took a backseat to it. And unlike you, I don't have kids yet and that sort of thing. So I'm talking when I was in the teens and 20s and even 30s, it was different. Now my priority is a little bit different. And so now I got to the point where I said, as opposed to traveling the country every day, presenting, why don't we leverage media? Right, and then hit a lot more students across the world, rather than me having to travel. Although there's endorphins that get released from doing theater that you can't.
Yes, you can't do it online. I believe that to be true. It's a little different. I did perform. My show was recorded, and it was in a theater festival. Online, the LA Women's Theater Festival in 2020. We just did that, and it was well received. The audience really enjoyed it. But when you feel that emotion, when you just connect with that audience and you feel their vibrations coming off from the stage, from the audience, and that's an element that cannot be, of course. You can feel it. It's not for me. But then again, I don't know what they felt. It's just it was a little bit different. But the fact is that it is now a platform doing things online, especially during COVID, right?
Oh, yeah.
So do you think it's because of course, I know the answer to this, but because of COVID, the traveling is less, and are schools open to doing online presentations?
Well, the biggest thing about theater, from at least from my vantage point, has always been the monetization of it, right? For me right now, I have a children's TV show that we were gonna do a deal with Oprah last year, And then of course I run a transport. I have a partnership with Amazon, and so for me, I've always looked at as I've gotten older. When I was younger, it was just the passion behind it. And I would sell my $20 ticket to rent out the theater or just do sweat equity and work so hard they would give me a night for free. But after a while, you really begin looking at, okay, how do I take this and how do I make this make sense?
Yes.
I do think that COVID is a double-edged sword, right? It definitely takes away from the human element, being able to be face-to-face with your audience, but also gives you an opportunity to do something that you couldn't prior, which is reach a lot more people with a lot less effort on your part.
Yes.
Okay? You just have to make sure that the quality is there. And so with that, the one benefit that I think COVID has had just from you can post stuff up on YouTube and see what that does, see if you can get to the algorithm. The only issue with YouTube is that you need to hit that 100 video mark, right? You got to make sure that you're cutting, you're doing it the right way so that folks can get the exposure that you want. But if you're going directly to school districts, the great thing is, if there's CARES Act funding, which an arts element is included from the federal government. This is billions of dollars. There's AB 130. There's so many different bills that are passing from states that will allow you to tap into the right schools where they do care about that sort of didactic learning. And schools right now, they have the money. That's the great thing. Coming into school year 21-22, the resources are there. And no matter what your political persuasion is, Biden made sure that certain bills were passed so that if you go to school and say, hey, I have this, it's just figuring out how do you tailor that within a curriculum, or in your case, within a social emotional need that kids have, and there's no avoiding it. And I think that it's very sellable. It's just how do you package it so that you can scale it in any given campus?
The fact is that I do have my work online and the workshops, and they have said, oh, you have something online. That's doable,
And it is. And the thing is, you have to figure out, I think, moving into what we're moving into. Even when I look at the show that I created, TheKoolSchool, and of course, we were turned down by Harpo, we were turned down by, well, not so much by Harpo, but definitely by the majors, right? Nick, Disney, I can go down the list. And one of the reasons they couldn't quite figure out where to put it on their network platform. So I'm glad that happened, because that was never my goal anyway. My goal was to get into the school system. And what I understood is that all schools are governed by standards, right? You need to learn what those learning standards are based on the state that you live in. And it changes now. 46 of the states all have Common Core. So you know that within the Common Core standards for whatever it is that your persuasion may be in the arts, how can you then fit into that and sell it to a school so that you can show your objective, what your measurements are? Are there follow-up quizzes so the kids understand not just your story, but the larger theme behind it? Learning now is very much theme-based, and your stories are just supporting what the theme is. And so if you can figure out we can talk more about it, but how to do that, then you've got yourself something you can package and sell.
That's awesome. I love that you're doing this. Like, maybe I'll have you in one of my workshops and talk to my students about it. Some people may not know what Common Core is because they may not have children, they're not in the school system. So basically, I know what Common Core is.
It has its goods and it has maybe what's its challenges because of how we learned when we were, for those of us that are 25 plus.
It's definitely a different way of teaching. Yes.
Yeah. Well, exactly from the way we learned, and I say 25 years old because that's about that age where they learn what we learned, right? It's changed. And it's changed really when I think two words, equity and access, right? I think that's when, the U.S. Department of Education, mostly spearheaded by Arne Duncan, probably at the time, and this is, of course, under the Obama administration, kind of came and said, within education, we need to figure out how every single student, regardless of what school they go to, whether it's a heavily funded private school or not so heavily funded public school, how can we guarantee that everyone has the same benchmarks in place so that this student, because they're from this background, of this demographic, of this family household income, they're not so far ahead of this student. Now, of course, those students who do come from those places still, but it does create more of a balance so that you can guarantee that your kids, maybe everyone's not enrolled in AP or advanced placement or honors courses, right? Maybe they're not, but maybe they now have the opportunity to take almost prerequisite versions of those courses, which never existed before. So that they hopefully they could reach the finish line the same way the other kids will. Whereas we come from a time where either you were in or you weren't. It is pretty black and white, and no pun intended. But it was just that. And so either you were in or you were out. And now there's more of an effort being made so that everyone's included, but there's still the issues that Common Core does not address, which is what goes on in kids' lives at home. The social emotional element, which is so big, which I think that work like what you're doing is so important, because those are the things that wake kids up more than the Common Core standards and what you're supposed to learn in math, because they have to get to the point where they care enough to want to learn in math, which means they have to care about their life, right? And that happens through them knowing that someone cares about them. And for most kids, the arts is the driving thing for that. So whether you're Sergio Star, whether you're a little baby, everyone has their artist that they may go to. To get that fulfillment. And so that's what's missing. And I think that's what more schools probably want to buy into.
Yes, and I really do want to address that with the schools as far as in allowing more artists into their school system to come and visit and help out. And a lot of them are really open to it. I think right now what they're dealing with is they're just trying to figure out how to keep, how to teach these kids with COVID and dealing with parents and that fear element that's engulfing them really right now. But so that part is awesome, and you are so great at helping, and thank you for all that information. And you're really what I've noticed in your speaking is that, wow, who are these people that he's talking about? Because I never took it. You really are a student of the work that you're doing. You're studying what's going on, and that's also an amazing thing that I really I appreciate that about you. So so what's next for you? And so you're doing TheKoolSchool. Tell me more about TheKoolSchool, right? And what's the grade level of students that you're working with, and what are you teaching them? What is it that you're bringing into the community? What's that?
So TheKoolSchool really was an idea that was birthed from doing theater in schools all the time. But what it has become is it's a series. It's a series where everything the kids learn in school, we make 5 to 10 minute videos to support it, but they're all driven by music, mostly hip hop and top 40 music. And so we license, whether it's TI or we license different artists' work, and we have folks at Universal who do our music. And the whole purpose of TheKoolSchool is what students are not getting in school from a learning from other kids, from an artistic standpoint. That's what TheKoolSchool is. And so, I mean, it is, in my opinion, the coolest school on earth for K through 3rd because it really does give them a chance to step outside of their classroom, but still stay in it.
Kids here at TheKoolSchool call me Mr. Josh. And education has changed drastically over the past decade into a space where individualized learning is at an all-time high. With that in mind, I'd like you to imagine something. A room full of smiling faces, K through 3rd graders, all excited to learn how to save our planet while mastering arithmetic the way Newton did. Adoring the world of hydroponics while understanding how historical figures like Anne Frank used the pen to create her legacy. From English to social studies, to learning how to stay fit with professional athletes, students have fallen in love with school and everything that comes with it. That's right. We can interact in our own educational world here. In addition, our smart wall contains maps, videos, and apps of each of the TheKoolSchool's episodes. Welcome to TheKoolSchool.
Just imagine that every single lesson you learned in school, there was a music video to support it. And I mean every lesson across every subject.
Oh my
right?
goodness. Is that
And
out there now? Is that like, do you have that available for people to see? Is it on
sure,
YouTube?
sure, yeah. Well, we were able to put half of season 1 up on YouTube. The other half we're still trying to, so we're trying in sales mode here, but it's there.
Okay.
It's there. And
Okay.
we've got some of the best kid stars. We've got Brianni Walker. Of course, she is an Academy Award winner. She's a Disney star. She is, she's kind of a big deal out there now. I think she's got hundreds of thousands of her Instagram followers, and we have a kid named Ayush Rajamanchekar, and Ayush, he and Michelle Obama just launched their show on Netflix a few months back.
Really?
And so we've got some, we've got some kids that are really, we've got Trevor Dow, he's one of my teachers, he's an Emmy nominee last year. And of course, my little bro, Mike Buchanan, who's the New England Patriots, a former, he's a Super Bowl champion. And so, we were able to put together a strong team to really drive learning into schools. And like I said, my big thing is, how can I influence kids every day in every subject that they have, but how can I do it in short spurts to meet their attention spans? And how can I do it through music that's relevant to them right now? And of course, a diverse group of kids who lead the cast, who sort of do really reflect the world today, right? Whether it's the world that it doesn't mean a person may be from a super rural village and they may never see diversity, but once they leave that village, they will, right? And if they plan on getting into the workforce in any meaningful way, they likely will as well. And so it really reflects what our world has become, and that's TheKoolSchool.
I remember something you sharing something about it, but now I really get it. Now it's like, oh wow. And I know that you also said that it's kind of different kinds of music. It's not just hip hop. Is it like country music too? Did you say that? Like, what
Country,
kind of
class.
music are there?
Well, every kind of music has inspired me throughout my life, and I mean every kind. Whether it was Nirvana in the 90s, Jay-Z, Celine Dion, the Symphony Orchestra,
Oh wow.
Vivaldi, you name it. And so all of it's a part of TheKoolSchool because it's art. It's arts driven. It isn't singular, right? I mean, we touch on a lot of international things because our student body reflects that. And so it gives students a taste of the world that they otherwise may not get from exposure that they're going to go find themselves. And so you name the genre of music, we touch on it. And I think we do it pretty naturally, right? The idea though is to, I guess, adding on to the idea is, how do we take what kids learn in school every day, but show them how it matters when they leave school? And so TheKoolSchool it's okay, we know the kids go to school, they sit in the classroom, or since COVID, they sit at home and they learn all these things, but then how does it actually really matter? Right. Mm-hmm. And so it is kids learning that. And like I said, it's through a series where they follow kids just like themselves, no different than when we watch Saved by the Bell or whatever it is that we may have watched when we were younger. But that's what it is. But of course, it's that in mini bites.
I wanted to put you on the spot. Do you know any of the songs? Can you share any of the songs that you show? What? No. A little something.
You can check out the track. Well, here's the thing, I of course I write all the music and I master all the beats before it goes off to production, but I write so many of them that I do forget the words. I wrote an episode called Rap Battle. It's about synonyms and antonyms, and you'd have to watch the episode. I don't embarrass myself.
I tried. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here is your lesson on synonyms and antonyms.
It's TheKoolSchool's first rap battle.
My name starts with sin, but I'm all good. My words stick together like real words should. So listen carefully, the name is synonym. My words mean the same like jingling him. I'm super duper chill, cool as can be. My words are fast and quick and move swiftly. You better than me, don't go there. You wanna build your vocab? Say yeah! This is my game and I'm antonym. I find the difference in all of them. I'm the opposite of you, which means I go against. My words, false and true, are two sides of the fence. Happy, sad, angry, glad. It's day, it's night. You're wrong, I'm right. I'm a double up, sweet, sour, sugar, spice. You're just Just 12 ways to say that's nice.
That is so cool, dude. That's cool. I love it. All right. So then, okay. So this is what you're working on. And and I know your life is education. And I know that I don't want to say your life is education. I know you have found a way to use your creative talents to educate, the children of the world. And I love that. And anything else in the works for you?
Well, yeah, some of them I can't talk. I can tell you that right now I am. To my earlier point, I think that right now, in addition to arts, I do think that it's imperative to begin diversifying your portfolio just as an American, because you have the opportunity to do it, right? And so an artist is one thing, but you can get into cryptocurrencies once you don't need a lot. I decided that I would partner with Amazon and provide a great majority share of their transportation services in New York. And so for me, it's very important to, because I think the one thing that happens to all of us as artists is you eventually get to the point where and especially artists of color, right? And I say that because, I had the joy of being an intern on Wall Street when I was an undergrad. And I worked for JP Morgan Chase. I eventually worked over at Lehman Brothers. And the one thing that we do, I mean, I'm stealing Robert F. Smith's line, but access to the economy is one thing that I know that we oftentimes don't know how to get it, right? And so a lot of times, hence my first nonprofit that I started, we didn't get any money. We wrote grant after grant after grant, everybody denied us. So I figured, you know what, I'm gonna have to take my money and do my own thing and hope that it turns itself over. We were lucky that it did eventually. But this is a different time now. And so I think right now it's really important that you figure whatever it is that you have, how can I take and make this grow? Because there's having your passion, but then there's also what makes sense right now so that you can ensure that whatever lifestyle that you would like to have for yourself, you can have it independent of a singular source of income. And I was listening to Rick Ross yesterday talk about that. I know I think he's the owner of Wingstop or something. He has a bunch of places out there in Southern Florida. And I heard him say that he's now generating more income from Wingstop and Checkers or whatever he does than he is his actual music, right? And there's a truth to that, and so you figure you can franchise a Chick-fil-A for $10,000, right? If you can get on the waiting list and actually get a location. But there's so many other things that you can do to begin growing capital. So then when you do have these passion projects, you can say, I'm gonna take this on. And I know that I have other revenue streams out there.
Yes, that's you touch upon something very important that I want, as far as being an artist, right? Like when you're an actor, you do a job and you get paid for that job, and then you got to continue you got to go look for another job. So with that idea in mind, when people don't I had to learn this the hard way, because in the beginning I made so much money, and you think that money is gonna keep flowing in. And then life happens, you get pregnant and have a baby, you can't work for a while, right? So I was so blessed that I made enough money that I didn't have to work for a while. Like the money that I made, I could live off on. But I would have loved to have known to invest that money. And that knowledge, I didn't have from the background that I came from, being raised in the hood around drugs, on welfare. So my mom couldn't give me those tools. And I had to learn those tools as I, kept growing up. And, now we're learning about crypto currency, about, stocks, real estate, of course, franchises. So, the artists now, I think they're smarter now. When you look at 50 Cent, when you look at who else? Ludacris also. He has a few restaurants out there. He has like a chicken place in the airport here in Atlanta, and so his businesses are and their production, like it's not just I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna rap, I'm not gonna just act, I'm just gonna act. It's like you're gonna do something with that money. A lot of people back then, all we did was, I couldn't say that because Sidney Poitier is not one of them, right? and neither is Harry Belafonte, because I remember in reading his work, he bought a building, he bought
Right,
real estate. So,
but
but the new
to your
ones, go ahead.
point, you're spot on. I just got off the phone with this girl. She's near and dear to me, and she is the granddaughter of Dorothy Dandridge, and then the Nicholas brothers. They were tap dancing, but I think they're the first Black actors or entertainers who ever had a contract with Fox, with Fox, and so very big deal in Hollywood at the time. I never forget, she and I were talking. We took a nice long walk one day from Brentwood to Santa Monica, and she told me that her grandfather, before there was a Sidney Poitier and a Hattie McDaniel and all these other folks came, they were there first.
Yeah.
And she would just say that, maybe the resources they didn't have the knowledge to even do things like buy a home. And they were multimillionaires. And we're going back to the 20s, and we're going way back.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. And we don't know about this. I don't know about this, but go ahead, keep telling me the story.
It's one of those things where you begin to realize right now, if you can get into the fabric of our country, whether it's in the stock market, which is one way to do it, real estate, which is another way to do it, transportation, you're not going to get into energy in any meaningful way, but you know what I mean? Because right now that's sort of, but there's so many things you can get into right now. And these are things that are not going away, right? I mean, LeBron James eventually is going to stop dribbling a basketball, but the reality is that there's one him out of every 1 million people, right? If not more. And so then you look up and you go, okay, what are things that I can jump into where I can do well for myself? And there's so many opportunities. I can tell you a quick story. One time I was out in California in Pismo Beach, and I was walking on the beach with a group of friends, and there was an old guy who was sweeping the sidewalk, and he waved and I waved back. And later that day, I was walking past what looked to be an apartment complex on the beach, though, Pismo Beach, and a garage comes up. He has a Porsche and something else sitting in the garage. And so I said, hey, how are you? And so we started talking. He tells me that he's a school teacher. And I said, sir, I'm a school teacher. There's no way a school teacher affords it, because he told me this was his building. I said, no way a school teacher affords property like this. He goes, well, I used to be a school teacher. Now what I do is I went back to my roots. He used to be a box maker in Nebraska when he was a little boy. Now, this gentleman had to be in his 70s at that time. This was a decade ago. But he told me that now he does all the packaging. He packages food for a brand called Cuties. Cuties are these little tangerine oranges you buy out of.
I know Cuties. I buy that for my kids. Yeah.
So the bags they come in are his. Right? Wow. There's a drink called Palm. It's like pomegranate.
I love Palm. Yeah.
Those are his plastic bottles. The guy makes $23 million a year making, and he told me that he had to make the purchase of the house and the cars and all that in the business name, because he had to put the money somewhere, otherwise he would be taxable, so he'd lose it. So he'd either buy something or lose it. And so he is who explained that to me 10 years ago. To get into what our country needs, not just what we want, and you'll never have an issue with finances.
Yes. When you solve a problem, basically, if you solve a problem to something, you'll be successful. And I also believe when you're, doing something that's good, and when you're being of service or empowering others like you're doing, I feel like, they can't say no to that, right? When it's good, you really can't say no to that. So this is awesome. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And for your knowledge and inspiration. I hope everybody that is looking at this can come out just feeling like I need to get my stuff together, right? Right. Especially the artists, especially when we I talk about the evolution of a solo artist, and I'm looking at you and seeing how it started with just, having a dream, and how you created that dream, and how there are so many people out here to inspire us, mentors. Like, when I read a book like Sidney Poitier, that was your mentor. The work that he left, that he has created for us to read, there's mentors all over, and a lot of my work is sharing and telling young people to find a mentor. And in these days, you could YouTube a mentor, right? You could Google a mentor and listen to them, and you can get inspired, and that voice and those lessons will empower you and make you better. In the end, you just want to be better, and follow what somebody else did, just duplicate it, right?
100%.
Well, this is my friend and artist. I wanted to say something cool, but I can't think about it. Well, thank you so much, Joshua Olatunde, for sharing your knowledge and for spending some time here at Love, Awaken and Prosper. We hope that you come back and share some more of your knowledge and inspire my audience. And thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thank you for watching. God bless you. I love you. Mwah. Bye.